The grass always looks green on the other side for any upcoming journalist. You live in a dreamland that after training, you'll most likely land in one of the media houses and boom, celebrity, status and money quickly come your way. Unknown to many, it is one tough and unforgiving journey that has led many to give up along the way. However, with the changing of media dynamics and coming of new media, there is an urgent need for the practitioners to change and adapt to the changing media. Well, today we host the Nyanza Region Media Council of Kenya Coordinator, Mr. Teddy Evans, who will help upcoming journalists understand what they need and make a name in the industry. Welcome, Mr. Teddy. Who is Mr. Teddy?
My name is Teddy. The other one is Evans, so commonly referred to as Evans Teddy. And I work with the Media Council of Kenya as the regional coordinator of Kisumu region, which is entirely the former Nyanza province and Western province. And therefore, I take care of the 10 counties that are within this region.
From the perspective of a student or an outsider, this is a field that many would like to join. What are some of the characteristics that one should have in order to become a journalist and eventually make it?
One is the fact that journalism is both an art and a science, and therefore there are things that you will be taught in class which are scientific, and then there are things that will come naturally, and to them I'll refer to them as an art. And therefore, anyone pursuing the field of journalism, first, it's an interesting field. It's not an easy field. One must be an intelligent person because, for instance, you go for a press conference which is 10 hours or 3 hours or a function that is 5 hours, but you only do a story for 30 seconds or 1 minute. So it is interesting, and therefore anyone who wants to become a journalist, one, they must show high levels of discipline. Discipline comes from an aspect of even at school. How do you respond to the assignments that you are given by your lecturers or tutors? And why am I emphasizing on the issue of speed, of discipline, is the fact that journalism will always is time bound. You delay with a story, it's no longer news. So you must be able to quickly work on that. So issues of time management are catered for in terms of speed. But the current media landscape requires that one must sharpen their analytical skills. Gone are the days when you just come and read a story and say, the governor said, the senator said, the MCA said. The question is, what is coming out of what they have said? And therefore, one must be able to sharpen their analytical skills so that then we respond to solution-based journalism. Even if, for instance, when you talk about issues of climate change, many will ask you, so what about it? So a journalist should be able to tell a story, but at the end of the story, give a solution. So we need to really sharpen our analytical skills and be honest. The profession requires high levels of honesty and integrity because you'll be sent to the field, nobody will follow you, so you must give a story. You can come back and lie that there was nothing, but other media houses will run the same story. So it calls for high levels of honesty, and then you must, as a person, you must be proactive. So that then there is something that distinguishes you from others. You have to always be proactive and innovative. Yes.
You have emphasized mostly on sharpening your high analytical. What do you mean by that? Are you trained or it comes natural?
You may not necessarily be trained. What it calls for is investing in yourself. So you must go out of the norm, read a lot, understand what other journalists are doing and how they are covering different stories, be it in health, be it in climate change, be it in blue economy. So the current system of education might not necessarily teach you how to become analytical. That means you have to engage with other resources be it online, watch out YouTube and see how distinguished journalists have been doing this. So it calls for self-esteem. Lazima ujitume mwenyewe, because nobody will come and tell you. So if the health problem is like this, this is the solution. There is no textbook answer to the current journalism. So you must be able to engage a lot with even people who are in the profession, but even giving solutions in the aspect of even analytical. It means that you must have good networks, because if you are talking about a story on health, for you to be analytical, who is your source of this story? The doctors will help you to be able to intersect the information that they are providing. So you must also be able to invest in networks.
Nowadays, the debate has talked and revolved around one must be trained in order to become a journalist. What's your take in some people like the comedians? They're out there, some have not gone to class.
One, there's a huge difference between comedians and journalists. Journalist, as per definition, is someone who has gone to school, studied the journalism profession, and then starts to practice it. It is totally different from a comedian. And that's why, traditionally, there are three functions of media: to inform, educate, and entertain. Now, journalists, theirs is to deal with the first and the second, to inform and educate. We leave the issue of entertainment to comedians. Now, why do comedians then come on board? The comedians come on board by the fact that people want to be entertained, people want to laugh, so we leave the comedians to do that work. But a journalist is someone who will go to the field, get information, analyze the information, and then give it back to the people. So there's a huge difference between comedians and journalists. However, there's a high number of comedians in media houses, is the reality. What we just need to distinguish is what has the comedian come to do and what has a journalist come to do. So comedians should not give competition to journalists, neither should journalists now transform themselves into comedians. Let's leave the space for comedians and let's leave the space for journalists. And it does not just happen in media industry alone. It even happens in other industries. Look at banking. Research and data has shown that the highest number of people who work in banks are teachers. So if the highest number of people who work in banks are teachers, what does it tell you? That even other industries are affected. So should we, for instance, stop training bankers? No. Because it's a free space. Personally, I worked in a bank for 7 years, but I'm a journalist. So it just tells you that the industry is liberal, you can take it and take advantage of what is there. So there's a huge difference between journalists and comedians. I'll just encourage those pursuing journalism to put in a lot of effort so that then they are distinguished journalists. Then for the comedians, let's them also work and become distinguished comedians.
As a journalist, one can go in class and study being a doctor and come out here being a journalist. What can you say, or what happens in there between?
Yes, there are doctors who are journalists. We have had one who has been working with the Standard Media Group, a doctor but working as a journalist. But he is not essentially a journalist. He's a media practitioner, someone who is working within the media house, but has just been assigned a particular role that because you understand you understand medicine or the medical field, then you can be able to help us intersect the information that is relating to that. So the person, however much they have done law, but working in a media house, nobody is changing them to become journalists. So the space for journalists is there. So we just need to use it competitively. Even Media Council of Kenya, when it's accrediting these people that have not trained as journalists but work in media house, there's a distinction. We call them media practitioners. Someone who works in media houses but is not essentially a journalist. So there's a huge distinction.
Once in the industry, what are some of the challenges you face? And where there's a challenge, there's always a solution. How do you navigate through?
To me, I'll not look at them as challenges. Actually, they are opportunities but there might be opportunities that just come through a negative perspective. So it's to turn the negative perspective into a positive perspective. Now, one of the huge challenge that the media industry currently is facing is the fact that a number of media houses are not able to generate revenue to sustain the media houses. So many media journalists will go unpaid, or they'll continue reducing the salary. Now that is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity then to have independent content creators. We have seen people like Alex Chamwada, who is a distinguished journalist, leaving the mainstream media and starting his own independent creation. And we can all tell how he has been successful, and many are there. So we just turn that challenge into an opportunity. It depends on how you look at. Then secondly is the fact that many training institutions, colleges and universities are not fully training the journalists. So they're just giving them theoretical knowledge. So there is a gap in terms of how we are training the students. Yet we want them to perform competitively when they come to the field. That's why we as Media Council of Kenya, for instance, have been going out and advising institutions on the best practices while training the students. But more so, we are now dealing with the students directly in such a way that students should realize that at the end of the day, it is their career. And information is available. You don't need to move out of the university or the college for you to know how to use a camera, for instance. So it is personal drive that you know you are undertaking journalism. What are you doing during your free time? We have places that you can go and train on photography, because you must understand, when you finish first year, for instance, ask yourself as a student, what can you be able to do? Is it the cramming that you can be able to do? Is it photography that you can be able to do? This design that you can be able to do? So yes, it's a challenge in terms of training, but it gives you an opportunity that let me go outside the box and do the best I can, so that then you create for yourself a solid profession. And then of course, lastly is the fact that it's also not a challenge, but many media houses have come up. It's good for freedom of expression and ensuring that the public accesses information, but now the high number of media houses brings in a challenge in such a way that even the business that they will have shared some money. If we have two media houses, they can share revenue that has been collected. But if you have 17, like Bungoma County has 17 media houses, now does the economy of Bungoma County able to sustain 17 media houses? No. So that generally means that even the amount of money a journalist will then be paid goes down in terms of salary. Solution to it is the fact that now we have, one, sharpen your skills so that when you come out here, you remain competitive. Two, you must be able to remain open-minded. That, yes, you have been trained as a journalist, but must you work in a media house? The answer is no. With the skills that you have gained in school, you can be able to work in a different sector. And that's why I started by telling you, personally, trained journalist, but has worked in a bank for 7 years. You know, it just depends how you want to manage. So let us also open up our mind and not just confine ourselves that I must work in a media house, I must work in a media house. You can work in an NGO, but as someone who is helping them with public relations, because a journalist should be able to have good public relations skills. So it just depends with how you position yourself as a student.
You have said the institution are not giving the students the best in practice. What I know, students go to class, they are taught, practice are given to them, cameras. What do you mean by the students are not given the best practices?
One is, and I did not mention the schools. You go to a college that is offering journalism, but they don't have a media lab. So at what point do their students practice? Now, you go to another college, yes, they have the cameras, but maybe they have 2 cameras which are supposed to serve 60 students. So at what point will one, even if one student was used a camera daily, it means that it needs 2 months for each of the students to get the camera. You go to another college or university, they don't even have a recorder, for instance. So it's just how do we expose our students to practicals? And if they're not able to have all these things, because sometimes it's difficult, can they collaborate with media houses that are within that environment so that the students can at least get access to these media houses? For example, Kisumu here, we have about 9 media houses. Maseno University has an option of saying, let's work with this media house or that media house so that at free time our students can go and see for themselves. But I also want to blame students because you go to an institution, they have a media lab, but a student will finish their studies without stepping into the media house. You go to a college where they have a radio, but a 4th-year student does not even know where the door to the radio station is. So whom do you blame? You cannot blame the institution. You blame the student. So as even say that the colleges or the universities don't have enough equipment to train, but students must ask themselves hard questions. The little that is there, how are they using it?
For those starting online platforms, how will they separate the wheat from the chaff?
Currently, online businesses or online media is the way to go because of disruption in terms of technological advancement. People can get news or information even before it's right on our traditional media houses. Now, these independent content creators, however, they must rethink. Because it's not just doing a story for the sake of doing a story. Because once you start an online platform, the essence is you are creating a brand. Now, a brand to be able to sell, there are things that you must do to develop that brand. Ask yourself, why are you starting this online platform? What value is it bringing? How does it differentiate you from others who have the platform? So, what content do you want to do? Because you must be known for something. You cannot want to start an online platform, but you want to do everything. When you see health, you have done health. When you see politics, you have done politics. When you see agriculture, you are in agriculture. Even in terms of your audience, the audience loses focus because they do not know you for anything. So to me, I'll encourage them that be specific in terms of the content you want to create. If it is health related, for instance, then focus on health and give high quality content. Do well researched stories. But more importantly, ask yourself, who is the target audience? Because many times, people put content on YouTube, wherever they are putting, without asking themselves, who is the audience? Or who is the target audience? And then ask yourself, how will they access this information? Because your target audience cannot be, and with due respect to humanity, cannot be my village, where I come from, is my target audience, yet I know that a majority of the people do not have smartphones in that village. So how will they access my content? That's why the audience, the target audience, is very critical. Then how are you going to market it? Is it that you are going to upload on YouTube and send people on WhatsApp? How many people will be interested in reading? So you must be directed in terms of how you will access them. Now, once you have built your online presence, then you must consistently be able to engage with your audience. Because people will comment, but nobody comments back. People will maybe tell you, I wish you had done 1, 2, 3. You don't respond to them. How can I access more content? You don't respond to them. So there's no engagement. So once you have created your platform and people, the audience is growing, then ensure that you are also continuously engaging them. But most importantly, content is key. Content is key. That's what I can say.
You have talked more on content creators. How do they stay afloat and resist the challenges of being misused?
One is just for them to define their space. Define your space. Say, this is what I want to do. It will take time. It will not be easy. I can tell you, especially when it's starting, it will not be easy. People will despise you. People will do all manner of things. They'll give you negative comments. But you as a person, you know why you have started the platform. must have a clear vision. Must have a clear vision so that let you be driven by the vision. Forget about what many people will say, especially the things that they want to say, so that you are brought down. Because the moment you are starting the online platform in terms of content creation, the reality is for you to start making any money, you must have followers. So that then people, you have created an audience and people can start advertising with you. So you must be even patient with yourself. But still, you can also look at it, content creation, not necessarily online content creation, but you can do it in terms of knowledge management. And I'll give an example of Alex Chamada. When he's doing his stories, it's not necessarily to be uploaded on YouTube. His stories is almost like creating a bank of knowledge that people are doing on health and all that. So you can still do it offline. However, you can do it offline, but engage with another media house that can air your content. So it just depends with how you look at it, but most importantly is content. What are you telling people? What will people know you for? Is what is very critical.
Accreditation as a key mandate to the Media Council of Kenya. How does it bring sanity in the industry?
Accreditation is an opportunity for you to distinguish yourself from jokers. Because the moment you have been accredited, you are given a card. So you belong to the journalism community. You are recognized as a journalist. Now, the history behind journalism and accreditation is the fact that you as a journalist, you are required to access different offices or organizations in terms of looking for content. Now, when you go to any institution looking for information, they'll ask you, who are you? You need to introduce yourself so that we avoid the cases of impersonation. So one of the things that then you can be able to do is to produce your press card that I am a journalist, my name is Evan Steady, I'm a journalist, I work with this particular media house, or I am a freelance journalist, and this is my press card. Now, you start looking serious. Even if you are a student who is accredited, you start looking serious compared to a student who is just hovering around, because at least you have started engaging with the professionals. But more importantly, even when you look at how accreditation runs, once you are accredited, you can start accessing grants. Sometimes Media Council of Kenya will run grants. You can be able to apply for the grants on virtue that you are accredited. Or we have the annual journalism awards. You can file your story on the virtue that you are an accredited journalist. But again, accreditation is very key when it comes to issues of safety of journalists, because the council is mandated to enhance security and safety of journalists, which we do. So today, when a journalist is harassed, for instance, and you call Media Council of Kenya to report, the first thing we ask is, are you accredited? What is your accreditation number? Report the matter to the police. Then we take it up from there. But if you call, I might know you as Marion. You call and tell me you have been harassed, you are a journalist. Yes, I know you are a journalist. I'll still ask you, what is your MCK number? Once you don't have, I can't deal with the matter. I leave it to DCI, who will now who deal with public issues. So accreditation is a support for journalists in course of duty, and that's why we insist that students who are preparing to go for attachment and practicing journalists need to be accredited, and this information is in public domain. The card has security features that when you go somewhere, they can be able to actually look at it, either using the QR code or sending SMS or checking on our website. You can see a full list of all journalists that are accredited in Kenya.
Do you think the physical training need to change and embrace the new face of media? For example, Zoom, e-learning, etc.
In terms of training, of course, different institutions are at liberty of deciding the kind of model that they want to use. However, they must be keen in terms of how to assess the fact that the students have actually learned that which they are required to learn. and also it depends with levels. So my personal view will be that students pursuing diploma or students pursuing bachelor's degree could just do physical training as opposed to online training, or could do a blend of physical and online training. Because the bad thing about the online platforms in terms of training is you might think that you are training someone, yet they just logged in and went away. You might be speaking to yourself. So how do we then ensure that the student that has been trained actually reflects the training that has been undertaken is where the biggest problem is. So I don't want to say online training is bad or physical training is the best. We could use a blend of all, but most importantly, how do we assess the quality of these training? Now that one, different institutions will have to determine different models of effective assessment and evaluation of those trained.
We've talked about media practitioners are the ones eligible to give information. What advice can you say about media stations that get advice from mere citizens?
Of course, different stations, we have seen a trend where different stations open up some space to allow citizens to come in with different reports, what has happened in their areas and all that. To me, how I look at it is just an aspect of audience engagement, but not converting the citizens into being journalists. So it's just an aspect of they are trying to engage with their audiences so that then they are exposed to a number of information. Remember, when you look at it keenly, there is a disclaimer to those reports because of the fact that nobody employed by the station have done verification. Remember, anything that goes on media houses or on air, it must be credible, it must be verifiable. There is an editorial process that goes into something before even news is read. But when they open up the space to the citizens, this aspect of even editorial judgment is not there. The aspect of verifiability is not there. So it's just an opportunity for them to engage with their audience. So it's just a model, a business model that different media houses are currently using. So we shouldn't be worried because there are different ways they can be able to engage with the audiences. But media houses must be keen, especially when they open up, they are not verified, they can't determine the credibility of this information, then we might at some point lie to the audiences because nobody has done, nobody is committed to give the truth, yet journalistic work is embedded on truth. It must be factual. So media houses cannot actually tell whether that story from the village is a fact or not. And that's why most of the time they go by their reporters, because as someone who has been employed by a given media house, you have committed and you have a responsibility. And that's why they opt for that. So this other one, to me, is just an opportunity for them to engage with the audience.
What do you mean by verified content?
Verified content in the sense that if someone disputed the reports that have been run on a media house, how will the media house actually be able to come back and tell us that it is true, it happened? And that's where the aspect of verifiability is coming in. That tomorrow you are put to task to explain, you can be able to actually say that so and so was here. This is the evidence that the person was there. As opposed to, if we don't do that, if there's no levels of verifiability and credibility, we'll run an industry on hearsay that so and so said. So what? Were you there when they were saying? Because we have seen, even in an article where someone writes that the governor said it rained, and then the senator said it never rained. The question is, you as a journalist, what did you see? Did you see it raining? Or because you cannot come and report to us that the governor has said it rained and the senator said it never rained. So what? The journalist should be able to tell us that I was there, or this particular area is experiencing rainfall because you experienced it. So that's where the aspect of verifiability is coming in.
In conclusion, what would you like the upcoming journalists to know before they come into the industry?
To the upcoming journalists, they must be able to know that there are great opportunities in the industry. It just depends with how they approach the industry. So first things first, they must prepare themselves for the industry. Preparing themselves for the industry means that they must take their training, academic training, seriously. But also, on top of that, add an aspect of personal training, where now they use their extra time to train themselves on various aspects of the profession. At least you must be able to be known for something. Is it that you are good at editing? Is it that you are good in photography? Is it that you are good in videography? If as students ask a question at the end of your training, what are you good at? You must at least be able to say, I can be able to do 1, 2, 3 things. So that then as you come into the industry, at least you have started creating your personal brand. But at the same time, students must realize that we are now in a digital economy. So everything is going digital. Content creation is going digital. So if you have passion and drive that you really want to be a journalist, then you must start practicing these things at this hour. If you want to start your YouTube channel, try it out as a student, and you don't need to do it as a single student. You can come together 5 or 10 students and then do it for purposes of training, so that by the time you come to the industry, at least you have sharpened your skills. If we'll still be in the industry, we'll welcome the students, so that then they come and we guide them, because it also requires a lot of mentorship. It requires a lot of mentorship, and again, that's where the institutions of training come in. To what extent are they mentoring their students? So that then the students can start facing reality. So, but again, if institutions fail to do it, the students should remain be proactive in terms of looking for mentorship opportunities. I am sure that Media Council of Kenya has done that severally, and we are still willing to do guidance in terms of what to expect within the industry, but they must come knowing that it is a competitive industry. It's a competitive industry, and therefore they must start being competitive at training level.
Thank you very much, Teddy. A great opportunity for those aspiring journalists to learn 1 or 2 crucial survival tips. Thank you so much, Teddy.
You're most welcome. It's always a pleasure.
For those out there, upcoming journalists, you have heard it all from Teddy Evans, the Nyanza Region Media Council of Kenya coordinator. If you're new in this platform, kindly like, subscribe, and share. Till next time, I'm your host, Marion Maina.